Hey folks, so this is stage 2 of my screener process. Hopefully you managed to see this stage 1 video that I did yesterday that talked about the filter that I apply to whittle down the LSE shares universe to potentially actionable stocks based on my criteria for the subsequent week. In this second phase, what I'm looking to do is pretty simple. The filter returned to me 42 opportunities that met that technical footprint and liquidity footprint criteria of the filter. I'm looking at these 42 from a negative perspective now. I'm looking for reasons to discount them just so I can thin out that list a little bit further before the last stage, where I then look for stuff that is actually, in my opinion, potentially actionable at the next trading session if the market and volume comes in as expected. Okay, so these are the data points that I've got. I can see I've just filtered this by market cap. You can see I've got a pretty big range here. So from the top, we've got AIB Group at 10.5 billion, right down to Hargreaves Services, which is 163 million pound market cap. I'm going to drop that straight away because at an average value over the last 25 days of 285k volume, that's in terms of monetary amount traded, that's not enough for me to be interested from a kind of liquidity perspective. And as I say, instead of my first video, it's just something from a risk perspective that I like to consider. So I've dropped that out, but let's come back and look at these data points in order. I have two views. I have a momentum view and I have a sort of a growth view that I'll sometimes pivot and have a quick look at as well. Although more often than not, I can thin out things primarily just by using the data points on this view. So I've got my view of the subsectors here. I can see a pretty good mix of subsectors being pulled back. But I'm always interested to see what, if there's some obvious themes and a number of shares that fit into one particular subsector that the filter is returning. I've then got a view of events. Let me just filter by that. Now, I have that because I like to have a view of what might be happening on the shares that have come back. If, as per in this example with Hilton's Foods, you've got results that it's SharePad saying are estimated on Friday the 5th of April. For me, that wouldn't be enough time to build a cushion, or if even if I want to take an entry in the stock. So if it's got results within the next week, I'll tend to take it off the list, because I'm not necessarily looking for sort of price earning gapper kind of plays in this kind of UK filtering process. So what other events have we got? So we've got a couple of stocks that are going ex-dividend here this week by the looks of things. So we've got Brie here. That's a 9.5. Yeah, I don't. Again, anything if it's going ex-dividend, I'm going to take that out. Direct Line as well. Not that I love the chart there necessarily either. So that comes out. Then we've got some acquisitions and mergers. Now, sometimes SharePad shows stuff from a very long time ago. So going back to 2020, I don't care about that. What about this next one? Next 15 group, 22. Don't really care about that. Red row, bid target, Barrett. That's recent. And that was on the 7th of February. And you can see on the 7th of February, whoosh. So, okay, that's good. In terms of you can see on the chart, from the chart, track it back to here and see the reason why you had this effectively an episodic pivot event there, but not for me. So I'll take that out as well. What have we got here? 12th of the 2nd, 24. Wasn't too bad technically actually as a setup, but I'm going to take that one out as well for next week. Oh, that's gone next to it, so that's okay. All right, so let's just filter those out a little bit more. I will have a look normally through the news stories just to see if there's anything of interest there that concerns me. Everything's made the cut in terms of the 14-day average true range. What I also like to do though is to look to see whether or not the average true range is starting to compress over the last five trading days, or expand over the last 5 trading days. And that just, for me, in terms of looking for low risk entry points, I'm always looking for a nice tight range where I can sort of get a low risk entry point. Now, so here I've filtered it the opposite way around to the ideal I'd look for. And you can see this example here, Riverstone Energy, average true range over 14 days of 4%. And in the last 5 trading days, that has increased by over half. And you can see that in the chart. And although you see that it's got a bit of a nice hammer reversal there off the 50-day, for me, that's just it's a bit wide and loose. I'm not interested in that. So I'm going to lock that out as well. The goal's not perfection here, guys. I just want to reduce the number of stocks for the trading week that are within my line of focus, because ultimately, I think, what I've found is if I've got too big a watch list, I just tend to lose focus. So I prefer to have a smaller list that I'm focusing on a given week, and then looking for day to day, evening to evening, what the best credible candidates are for subsequent trading day from that smaller list. So another one here, ATR has been increasing over the last 5 days quite a lot. It's a little bit, I mean, that's not terrible, but I'm going to take that out as well. I'm okay with that one. I'm okay there. All right, and all the rest have actually compressed, so that's okay. I've then got the movement of the price from the 21-day EMA, and that was part of the filter. Remember, if it was more than 6% above the 21-day EMA, this wasn't going to pick it up, and if it was below 97% of the 21-day EMA, it wasn't going to pick up either. So that's why I'm seeing stocks that are fairly close proximity to the 21-day EMA. I do also have the proximity from the 50-day EMA on here. Now, I don't use that necessarily so much at this stage, although having had a quick look here, I'm probably going to discount this stock because 11% above the 50 MA, if this was a US share, which had a little bit larger average true range, I'd probably be less concerned. And it does seem to be like it's building a little bit of a possible flag here, but for me, that's quite extended from the 50-day. So I'm going to take that off for this week. Georgia Capital, I don't know what's happened there. That's clearly quite a big ranged move. I'm going to take that out as well. Again, this is just about starting to thin out the list a little bit. So 52-week range, everything is in the top upper half as one would expect. I'm looking here, I've got a view of turnover and earnings per share change, most recently reported. I've got this as latest quarter, but that's because I, again, use this mostly for US share tracking. But I can't. That's not really a very good look, is it? I think I'll lop out Harbour Energy there as well. NCC Group, both negative. I'm going to lock that out too. Again, this isn't necessarily about perfection. Some of those could have been quite nice technical setups, may end up making nice moves, but for me, I've just got to try and thin this down so that I can have a better focus for my week. So I don't think I've got anything left which I have particular liquidity concerns on. This is at the lower end of the scale, as is the gym group, but I'm not too concerned. That's a pretty steep pullback, but an interesting reversal there as it got very close to the 50-day on the last trading session. So that's okay. At the moment, I only trade stuff on sets. I haven't got any issue necessarily with sets QX stocks, but now I've moved my primary ISA to IBKR. I don't trade sets QX. Let's have a quick look at the up-down volume ratio. So we've got 4 as the greatest here for IWG, 0.5. That's pretty low. Looks a bit of a weird choppy mess as well, so I don't love that. That's coming out. 0.5. I'm taking Bloomsbury out as well. that's necessarily a huge growth name that's going to explode for me, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Okay, how am I looking now? I'm down to 28. For me, I think that's okay. That gives me 28 stocks I can now look at much more thoroughly from a technical analysis footprint perspective, look at the volume patterns, um, do some pivots to a couple of the other views that I have available. Where, so for example, I'll look at some of the other growth metrics like change in city holding percentages over the last 3 months, where it is the prices relative to the consensus price target, and some of these other data points as well. Um, but in general, I put more weight of evidence on technicals than I do on fundamentals. So I'm more interested in the technical analysis side of things and just generally relative strength that the stock's exhibiting relative to indexes in the market in general, and other stocks within the same or similar um, group. So that gives me my 28. In the next series of videos, I'll do a few shorts of the things that I think will potentially be actionable on Tuesday if the market opens well and they show good relative volume as they move past the pivot points that I identify. Okay, great. I hope this was useful. As ever, not investment advice. Trade your plan it out nicely, manage your risk, always respect price, and have a great weekend, folks. All the best. Bye bye.